the new and improved Solar Scarabs. I think Scary D's probably on the way or something. He's around, surely. So instead we've got Slaney sitting in. Something you're exceedingly used to now, right?
Yeah, I'm just a player at this point.
But we got to talk about the elephant in the room, boys. I mean, obviously, that's why we're here today. Slaney, what have you done, man?
I don't know, I was just kind of getting bored. I felt like, 3 weeks with the roster was, I don't know, just...
Too many.
Yeah, I just thought it was time for another change. I felt like we needed it, so I obviously just kicked Stu. And then,
Fair enough,
I
fair
just
enough.
took him off.
The real unfortunate truth is, and I'm sure the fans at home have noticed, no laptop, no notes today. I had construed an entire segment for this interview to ask, what are you looking for in a new player? Like, what is it exactly you're looking for? Like, as far as attitude, play style, would there be considerations for switching roles? But clearly, the answer is here. Yark now moving to ADC. Hurry went over to the support role. So we're kind of freeballing. We're playing it by ear today. Hurry, how's it feel to be back at the SPL?
Feels great, man.
That's it.
It feels good. I don't know. It was kind of weird not being in the SPL. I was in the SPL for 9 years, dude. And I'm
Is that
back.
true?
Yes.
There's only been 9 years.
That's right. This is the first year I wasn't.
So you've been in for 8 years.
Well, I was before season 1. There was season 0.
Do you think maybe this propensity for lying is why you weren't in the SPL this year?
Lying is fun, so I'm gonna.
We'll have to keep an eye on this. This is
A
a new
revealing
revelation
moment.
for me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mifflin is just acting out.
Sorry, I just
him.
really wanted
That's
to join the
what you're
casting
talking
team, unfortunately. Sam, how's it feel to have, your old teammate back? Is it something you were excited about?
I'm not excited at all.
Cool. Should we make it like really awkward? Sam, how active were you in the Jade Dragons decision to bench Hurry Wins?
I heard he was
Everybody
a
has their
front
say,
line.
you know.
You think he was like pushing for it?
Yeah, he was like, we lost in quarters. That was all him.
I didn't do anything
I tried to play
wrong.
mid. He wouldn't let me. God bless.
Every time I came mid, it just never went well. Gotta get rid of that guy.
That's why he was camping duo lane so much. And Baronic,
So,
you're like it, man. Have you seen all the memes on Twitter? Like,
I mean, it's hard not to.
yeah, just looking around, like, where are my boys at? Well, you still have
I mean,
Slaney
yeah.
at least.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm just getting used to it at this point. Just people leaving left and right. But
Just another
I
day
mean,
in the office.
I mean, at the same time, I'm like, happy for them. So, I mean, it is what it is almost.
Yeah, happy for him, but certainly going to stop him, like, next time you line up, right?
Yeah.
You know
Which is
all
this
his, like,
weekend.
his bad mistakes he can make.
I'll
so-
be happy for him for a few more days.
Okay, a few more days.
Fair enough.
And York, back to ADC, man. You were pretty dominant in your stint during the ADC a little bit earlier on in the year. Are you excited to go back, or is this more of a necessity move?
I think it was like a necessity more than anything. So I feel like maybe I can do more here now.
That's
than
interesting.
When I was before, so.
Yeah, last ADC I talked to was like, yeah, the role is super hard to play out of right now. It was Panda Cat though, so like, take it with a grain of salt. But he was saying this role's feeling a little bit more stagnant compared to what you were playing, which is support, which a lot of people have agreed is the strongest role in the game right now.
You are a Rainbows for 10 minutes and then you are a Walking War, so. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, now you can just like do a lot of damage to like
Yeah.
objectives and gods. And
Yeah.
ADCs are really good, and I can't believe they'd ever try and tell me they're not. But I'm glad that you tend to agree. Boys, I mean, let's be serious for a moment now. How do you view this team? Because it seems like a lot of players in the past have treated, and it seems like a lot of teams as well, treat the Solar Scarabs as maybe a stepping stone. We've said, in the past, the casters have maybe described the squad as an incubation chamber for the rest of the league. How do you guys foresee it? Is the Solar Scarabs like the goal? Do we want to continue growing as a squad? Can you foresee this team sticking together, or do you legitimately, each of you, see this as maybe just a way to like keep exposure up, stay in the league, and maybe jump up to another team at some point?
It's a good
I mean,
question. but,
it's
like, what
hard
do
to
you
answer
expect?
that. Like,
It's super hard. I know,
individually.
as a player, I could never answer that, but I'm not a player, so I can ask it.
I mean, it's hard to answer that individually, because like, I mean, it's kind of weird to like consider your own team like a stepping stone for the rest of the league, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's a weird, but I think that's just been like these past like 2 years. It's been, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough.
Well, it's not even that crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like if the team is underperforming, Like,
Yeah,
let's
that's
say
exactly
you've got a new team set up for like a few months, and it's underperforming, and someone on your team is playing consistent, and they get a better offer, then you can't really blame them. It sucks, but then if you find an iteration that works in a few months, then maybe people will be more likely to stick around. I mean, if it's working, people won't leave. So that's just kind of how it goes. It's unfortunate. This is probably the first time that's happened, I think. And
To this extent?
to this extent,
yeah,
where
it is
one
wild.
team has been
Yeah.
taken, because the Bucks haven't done great this year either, but I'm sure some of them have been like offered spots, or people have offered to join their team, I'd have to imagine, through all the roster stuff, but they just chose to stick together. But once you open it up and you lose a couple of people, then you kind of lose what the team identity probably was originally. So
I feel like one thing that you kind of have to keep in mind is that it's kind of obvious that we've had loads of players with loads of different talent. Obviously, Layers has gone on to do really well. Steve obviously went on to do really well. I mean, obviously Steve was already proven talent, but all of the players that have left have gone on to do good things and stuff. And it's just more that we couldn't gel as much, or maybe we couldn't cover for each other's issues as well as maybe some of the teams could. Maybe just playstyles mesh easier. I mean, it's kind of obvious. As an example with Scream, his playstyle just instantly kind of meshes with the Dragons, whereas maybe it didn't mesh as well with our team. So maybe it's tough to look at it as a stepping stone, as more of unfortunate circumstances where we couldn't mesh as well as we wanted to, whether that be in-game stuff or out of game stuff.
Fair enough. And you bring up style there, Slaney. I think as coach and captain of the Source Scarabs, you're in an interesting position to answer this question. What do you foresee the style of the Source Scarabs being? We talk about teams lacking an identity all the time. The Scarabs historically have been a team, despite all these changes, or maybe in spite of them, that have consistently found success throughout the early game, and it's maybe that mid to late game where you start to struggle. Do you foresee that maintaining the case here? Are you guys still emphasizing any individual portion of the match? Do you have a clear idea for what you want the identity of the squad to be?
I mean, I think it's everyone always wants to have a personality, but I think in an ideal world you can play the early game well with an aggressive team and then still learn how to transition that into a late game. So I think I want to say we still want to be a dominant early game team like we used to be, but like I said, just kind of transition that into a late game team as well, because I think that's kind of our issue now is we're doing pretty good in the early games, and then we kind of just turn our brains off a bit in the mid game, and then it transitions into us falling behind in the late game. So obviously it's not a great answer to your question, but we should just play throughout the whole game.
Just got to figure it out first, too. I mean, again, it's almost a completely new team.
Yeah, definitely.
I consider jungle and support to be essentially the core of how your team decides to play, because they've got so much impact on the map. And Sam, it's been, 4 or 5 weeks now since you've joined the Solar Scarabs. It's been about maybe 5 hours for you, Hurry. So how do you guys foresee the team playing out? Do you have any particular goals for it? How has some of the changes affected shot calling? Do you guys have a primary shot caller at this current time? What's the team dynamic like?
Yeah, I don't know if it's really that set in stone for the most part. I mean, we haven't gotten that many scrims in with Tyler overall.
3 probably.
Yeah.
Tryouts, and then here we are.
Yeah, but so yeah, I think we have a lot to learn and kind of figure out for that. I think in general, for the most of the shot calling, it'll probably be Tyler and I deciding what to do around the map. Maybe Tyler more than me. I'm not too sure how it'll go. And then I think in general, game will seed there too. I think Jark always has a lot of good ideas late game, so that's probably where he'll step in more if he ends up doing any shot calling. But I think probably for the majority of stuff, I'd say us 3. But yeah, we kind of got to figure out how we want to play things, I guess, and kind of go through that a bit. We haven't really had the time to do that yet, so kind of up in there a little bit.
Fair enough. How do you foresee it going down? Or do you have a goal, considering it seems like the team has given you a little bit of leeway to be one of the leaders coming in, which is a unique position that I know that you had expressed in the past, even on the Jade Dragons. You wish you had a little bit more say in how that team was kind of directed. Do you feel the weight of that decision-making power now that you've joined the Scarabs?
Yeah, weight is maybe a weird way to put it. I mean, I switched to support in large part because I want to be active in influencing the game and deciding what we do in the game. The jungle and support, as you mentioned, are the ones who usually are running the game for a good portion. So this is going to take some communication between Sam and I, but we've played together before. I know how he wants to play the game more or less. And I definitely kind of run like a more macro style of like thinking when it comes to the game too. I think that meshes more with Sam than, for example, we were on the Dragons. I feel like we were more of like a playmaking team. And so I think, with a team that can get ahead early game, with like a maybe more focus on macro and like good decision making as a team later on, it could transition into something good for us. Late game, I think you should usually have one carry who's really vocal and one frontliner who's really vocal. And I think Yark is probably the vocal backliner in this case, more so. And then I'll probably take, like if we have to make a decision around an objective, I've gotten pretty comfortable even in the minor league calling for my team and making those big decisions. Like when I feel that there's a lot of times in pro play, just in competitive play in general, when situations get really overwhelming and you can tell not everyone's on the same page. And sometimes you have to have someone to just be like, F it, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And just get out of that, like, it's like, are we backing? Are we committing? It's just like, you just need someone to be like, this is what we're doing. Maybe it won't work out, but when you build that trust, eventually it just starts to work out, I think, at the top level. So I'm hoping, with some time, that'll be what we get to.
Fair enough. And time really is the topic of conversation because you have not got a lot of it.
Yep.
World's right around the corner. Are you guys like still excited for it? How do you foresee your prospects going into it? Because when you look at this team, and you could have said this about any iteration of the Solar Scarabs, it's a lot of talent. This is Sam for soccer. Well, this is Baronic, a world champion. We got world champions all the way around the table, played for various roles. You've coached various teams. Yarkor, literally a reigning world champion as of right now. But at the end of the day, it's a team game. Smite's never been dictated by any individual player. It's so seldom, or it's been at least 6-7 years since individual players have won the day. How do you feel about your prospects going to the Worlds as the coach and captain?
I mean, I'm still confident. I think it's maybe almost like a fortunate circumstance where I think a lot of the players that have come in now, obviously Sam, Hurry, and Jock, where they're players that kind of constantly think about the game and they're like always thinking of like new ideas and stuff, and they're always willing to have like long discussions kind of thing. And you always feel like you can learn almost off of each other. Whereas like obviously that's like not a requirement, but I don't think the team was kind of like that before. We weren't like huge thinkers kind of thing. But I think just being with the players that we have now, we have a lot more opportunity to potentially grow just off of each other, which I think will help us in the short term.
Fair enough. And then even in the long term, looking beyond that, having so much diverse thought process on the team. But Yark, we've been talking about the pace of the game a little bit. It's been a bit early-centric with the Solar Scarabs, but coming from the Leviathans, a team that has been hailed in the past as, we might not win the early, we're not really going to try and make plays early, but when we get to the late game, we're that team fight behemoth, and even on Sanguine, that seemed to be a very standard win condition for you guys. Has it been hard adjusting to this faster play style?
I think it was not harder, but it's just different. For example, I got used to playing with the same player for 3 years. So getting into working with new people is just a lot different. Because for example, most of the time I don't really have to say that many things in order to people know what I'm actually wanna do. But for example here, I'm just a new player for them, so I just need to be just need more vocal about it, as Hori was saying. So there is just a new whole experience that I think it had helped me at least to grow as a player. Because I think when you have the opportunity to work with others, you will probably just learn a lot, even if you're just freaking losing every game. But yeah.
But you haven't been losing every game. I've heard the scrims have been going well. Yeah. You've been taking some of these sets a little bit longer as well. I don't know.
Yeah, for example, everyone always says that losing is learning, and I think that is actually really true. For example, even I remember last year, this year Worlds, I think we, in the Leviathan, we were a really hard time in scrims too. And I think he always come up to the end, and when you show up when it matters, so I was hoping for that this year. So
fair enough. A hopeful outlook from the new ADC for the Solar Scarabs. But on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Yarkor on one side, having played with the same 4 players for so many years. Baronic, you've played with just about everybody, man. What's that experience been like?
I think there's a lot of positives you can take from it, just from well, now I know, how they want to play the game, like going up against them. So, I mean, in that aspect, like, sure, you can take away a lot from that. Obviously, in our team situation, it's not ideal, right? Because it's just more just stressful than anything. But, I always just try to look at it like, look at the bright side and kind of just take as many things away as I can and, try to use that leading up to Worlds. And I think what you were just talking about with Jark, most, if not all of us, have been in really high pressure situations and perform. So, I mean, it's just literally all about doing the best we can, just taking a step by step leading up to Worlds and just showing up our best and hopefully no more changes.
Surely not. Surely not. With there's so little time left in the year.
Would not be ideal. Wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I mean, I saw your tweet a little bit earlier today. You were saying, man, if my players just had buyouts, dude.
I'd be loving it. I could retire.
1 car, 2 car.
Yeah, well, a couple cars for sure. But how has your role within the team changed throughout the year, Bronick? Because I feel like, especially back in the console days, you were a little bit more of that shot caller, main voice on the team. You were always, I felt like you were always that voice of reason when I had the opportunity to play against you, and I feel like that transferred a little bit when you came over with that console core of layers, Bobby and yourself. But now that the team has kind of changed throughout the year, you've got a bit more veteran talent behind you. Have you taken a bit more of a backseat as far as decision making?
It's been a weird one because, I obviously grew up with playing with layers, Bobby and all them when we were, 16, 17. And I was usually, like you said, more of like the level-headed, keeping everybody just, on track, doing their thing. And then coming in SPL, it's like literally a 180. Like I'm like taking a step back, trying to learn almost because, the players, the players that came on with, Zap and who was the other one? Sop.
It's been so long, right?
I know, it's like so many
people.
It was, I think especially Zap, I don't know. I had to come in with a lot of, trying to just respect as much because at the same time, I feel like my pickup might have been a little premature in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have preferred to honestly play like minor league for a half year before even like considering. But, there was some last second things because I had just came off of taking a break from Smite too. So, but, my inner self was like up for the challenge at the same time. So, I put myself out of my comfort zone, and I think I've taken a lot, since I've began in SPL, and I'm just hoping it, pays off eventually.
I think it's been looking pretty good for you, man. And people forget, like, you've got the competitive pedigree as well. I mean, it gets memed a little bit, but console world champion absolutely means something. You're used to playing at that high level. You're used to competing, and showing that adaptability throughout the years has been maybe one of your strongest suits. And legitimately being able to come in every single day and still play as well as you have with all these different faces around you and all these different play styles has been incredibly impressive, not only as a caster, but I think the fans can see it as well. So hang your head on that one for sure.
For sure.
What are the plans, for you out of the jungle? Because, back with Hurry Wins, you guys obviously have become used to playing a certain style together. Are you trying to replicate that, or is that something you really just want to adapt and change, or are you trying to build this team around this new Solar Scarabs, or do you have a vision for the team?
It's tough to say for sure, because like I mentioned, like just not getting that much practice in. I think, yeah, I don't really know. I think Tyler and I were gonna have like a lot of conversation in general about how we want to play and how like the phase of the game we think we need to be strong in, or kind of everything. I feel like we just gotta get to it a bit, For specifics, it's pretty hard to go into. I feel like it's kind of
it's so early.
Yeah, it's very early. What happened like yesterday or 2 days ago, or
There's
like
so
2 days
many
ago.
things that you have to be on the same page with, especially now since they put more like neutral objectives in the game that you can contest. You really have to be on the same page. Like if we show up to different neutral objectives, you can just get so far behind just off of that miscommunication. So you really have to be on the ball with being on the same page. But I know Sam. I know what he wants to do for the most part, and
What
we
does
have
he want to do?
we have. Well,
Share it with us.
I mean that's not for the
Win. Kill the Titan.
What'd you say?
Kill the Titan.
Yeah,
That's a good
I
goal.
think we should try to kill the Titan
Kill
if
the
we
Titans
can.
on Sunday. In game, of course.
In game, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we all agree when we talk about killing the Titan, we are talking about in-game and the objective,
Yeah.
not the players.
Right. Even
Well, the
though
players
there was
in-game,
someone
the
who
players
died.
in-game,
Not
okay.
out. Well, I mean, you can't just walk up to the Titan without.
Okay, well,
That would
so
also be messed
maybe
up. There's more Scarabs players on the Titans now than there are on the Scarabs. So,
Wait a second.
Do the math.
wow.
yeah.
That means
Salt
they should
layers
be
and,
playing
not
for
stupid.
us, right? Like,
You're supposed to
And
be.
They
inside
should take
job.
our record if you think about it.
Oh my god. That's awesome, actually, to
Yeah.
think about. So
Grudge
clearly
match.
Have the wrong
you've got a
jersey.
perfect idea of how they want to play.
Basically,
You're in their
yeah.
head, yeah.
Exactly.
And we are talking about in-game. That's all we've ever been talking about here is
Yeah.
in-game.
In game.
Can you please say in-game? Sam.
in game,
What do you want to do? You want to take them out?
ideally. I mean, we
You
got
wanna-
a grudge
you,
match
You
against.
want to kill those guys?
Yeah,
really
we got a
bad.
grudge match against Stu this
In
weekend. That's all I'm
Smite.
saying.
We hate
It's
that
like
guy
it.
now. We really want to destroy Stu.
Yeah, we don't like saying kill. It's more of like eliminate.
Is
or
it a
slay.
grudge match for you against Stu? You don't care.
I don't care.
He just wants to win.
Yeah, I will try to. That's what I'm gonna do. So
Yeah, there you go. I'll make it happen. It's a grudge match for me.
nice.
He hurt
You
my
mad at
boys,
Stu?
my
Yeah.
new boys, my day-long boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We go way back.
How's morale on the team right now? You guys feeling okay as a squad, or?
That's a hard question.
Yeah, I know, right? It's
I'll bring my morale and just
I mean,
in being happy to be
yeah.
here.
Yeah, you like.
I don't care. It's gonna be as scuffed as it is, and I'm still happy. So hopefully I can, maybe we can get a win. That'll help.
Yeah.
That'll help get some morale up. I think. So we
Can
have
you
somewhere to put our heads.
like Brendan was saying, like you have to always have to like look at the bright side of things. So
Yeah.
I mean, like things happens for a reason. So we'll just have to wait and see what's up.
Fair enough.
A very painful year for Worlds win. What about
Sure,
that?
I'll take it.
That's how it usually goes for Worlds.
Yeah.
It's usually
For
not
you
that easy.
especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Unfortunately for you guys, I am gonna like push to have you all back in studio again to talk to you for another roundtable, just because I want to talk to you once we have a little bit more data on this team.
Sure.
But instead of talking about maybe your roster drama, let's get some speculation about some other roster drama going on in the league right now, because you're all in such a unique position and have so much insight on this type of situation. CycloneSpin out doesn't exactly have a home right now. What do you guys think's in the future for him? What's in the cards for the old Cyclone?
I mean, I think it's like obvious that Cyclone's like an incredible player. So I think it'd be pretty crazy to expect him not to be on a team next year. I mean, obviously he's like role swapped as well. So it's not like out off the cards for him to role swap potentially. But I would be surprised if a player like him stayed like without a team for a long time.
Fair enough. He's a staple. He's a fixture in the SMITEPro League.
He's like one of the smartest players as well. Like his plays, like calls around like objectives and stuff is like one of the best. So
Fair enough. Any other thoughts over here?
I haven't played with him since season 1, so I don't know like how he is as a person anymore. I mean, if he is so good, obviously, like your mind goes to like, okay, he must have, maybe that he was hard to deal with or something happened between the players. But I mean, hopefully, someone tells us, and not everyone has to speculate because I don't know. But that's what you'd assume because he's not
Was he difficult to
underperforming.
play with back in season 1?
Well,
you trying to start drama?
that
Well,
was
I mean,
that
I
was
just
on the
wanna hear
Fat Chunks, dude. Fat Chunks. He
been a
was
minute.
on the Vulcan solo making waves. That's when that's actually we were playing against, I think, old Dignitas of Lassus and Steve. And he was playing Vulcan solo, and we were just getting creamed, of course, because we sucked. But Cyclone was like almost 1v9ing that game, so that's when people I think realized how good he was. I knew he was good before, but I didn't. It's hard to tell until you actually like play at a tournament and see, if they're gonna show up. But I don't know. Back then, I mean, we were all so young. It's hard to say. That was just so long ago. I wasn't going to be specific about the year time, but I guess I have to.
Yeah.
8 years ago,
It has been 8 years.
we were different people, so hard to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for him really, but he mentioned that I think he's like was considering taking a break in general, and like I think in general sometimes playing so long you get burned out pretty easily, and taking a little time off.
Renews you.
yeah, it can just be good for you. You know, little refresher of the mindset and everything. So, yeah.
But I feel like the longer you stay away, it's always
I
becomes
agree.
so
I
much
don't
more
think-
difficult to
yeah.
come back in. New talent steps up, replaces you. All of a sudden, it becomes a little bit more difficult because and it changes at times as well. Whereas we've seen Cyclone play, I believe it's 3 roles competitively: ADC, mid, and solo. Solo is probably the most stacked role in the game right now. It's really hard to find an in there. All the ADCs are either team captains or staples of their teams as well. It feels very difficult for anyone to break into those 2 roles. Mid laners, I suppose, would have to be concerned, but Baronic's stuck. No way he's going anywhere because he's the only one who hasn't.
Yeah, he can't leave.
It'd be so difficult for him to break back in, especially if he decided to take such a long break. But it is interesting to hear you guys' thoughts on that, especially from you who have played with him in the past and things along those lines. But this has been the Solar Scarabs, a little preemptive check-in. We'll check in with them again, I promise, once we get a little bit more data. Maybe they're just stomping the entire league. We bring you in to celebrate. Maybe it's the other way.
That'd be nice.
Probably not that way, though.
Well,
I would never say that with
that's not
either.
nice.
I'm getting some
You
wins.
said something nice into something not nice.
Well, yeah, I'm going to play. I can't be biased.
Good.
You could be.
Do you want me to be?
Yeah.
Dude, Sam, I actually, before we do end this, every single time I desk a Scarabs game or cast a Scarabs game and I walk out in the lobby, you're always walking by, and you say one thing to me every single time. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's you gotta chill. What do you mean by that?
Gotcha.
That's been the Solar Scarabs. I've been Mifflin. We'll see him again later.
Hey, wait, what did it win?
You win the respect.
Telling me an alien wore this?
Perfect. Okay, that was a good cut.
Messaging him to mute.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course, and I can probably watch a stream on the side.
Content's gonna look good.
Pretty good, pretty good.